What if I told you that in the Gaelic world, that the Gaelic people were never, never meant to kneel to kings? That the Gaelic world, nobility meant something completely different. Nobility meant something completely different in the Gaelic world. It wasn't the same thing. In England and most of Europe, nobility was handed down through generations. So it was handed down to the son, the first son, or whatever way that worked. That's what nobility meant in England and in most of Europe. The Gaelic world was completely different. The Gaelic world was completely different. In the Gaelic world, nobility was about your contributions, what you could contribute to the tribe, what you created, what you developed, your ideas, your character. That was what nobility was about. Under Brehon laws, that's what nobility meant, how you looked after your neighbours. That's what nobility was about. And sure, some of that passed down through families. It was a noble dad, generally he brought up noble sons. But it wasn't something that was handed down from father to son, unless the same actual nobility in your blood was handed down to your children. That's a whole different situation. But it wasn't inherited. Your nobility wasn't inherited in the Gaelic world. Under Brehon laws, nobility wasn't just handed down through the generations. It was earned through hard work, through who you were, your contributions. It was a much more meritocratic society. Much more meritocratic society where we didn't have class systems. We didn't have class systems, and we still don't. Most of us still don't. We don't look at someone from one part of Ireland as different from another. So I don't want to pick two places, but let's pick Darndale and let's pick Dublin 4. Most Irish people don't see it as different. Whereas in England, there's a rigid class system, and a lot of Europe, there's rigid class systems that are imposed on the people. But that doesn't work with the Gaelic soul. The Gaelic soul was never about that, and could never look at people differently because of where they were born or who they were born to. That's not the way the Gaelic soul worked. It was through what people did, what people created, how people contributed. That's the way Brehon worked, and that's the way Gaelic people worked. That's the way the Gaelic society worked. In Ireland, the High King was not some sort of ruler. He was not someone who was creating laws, wanted to create laws all the time. He was not someone who would put you in prison for going 5 kilometres over the speed limit. That's not what the High King meant in Ireland. The High King in Ireland was more like eBay. He was the arbiter of rules. He would sort out issues. So if you order something on eBay and someone doesn't send it to you, you can contact eBay and say, hey, I never got this. Can you sort it out? And eBay will try to sort it out and maybe refund you and try to get the money out of the other person. That's the way the High King worked in Ireland. The High Kings, there was no prisons, and the High Kings were not putting arbitrary rules on the people to control them. That was never a Gaelic value. That was imposed on us later on. The Gaelic world was a very, very different place. It was about mutual respect. It was about looking after your neighbours. It was about lifting people up instead of pushing them down. Lifting people up and making sure everybody, no matter where they're from, no matter no matter their past, that we can lift them up and help them contribute to the tribe as much as anybody else. And it was also, to some extent, about protecting people who couldn't through one form or another couldn't contribute to the tribe, protecting them too. It was a meritocratic society. So when you feel that deep feeling that you want to see Gaelic people succeed, that you love, you see a Gaelic company like maybe Stripe or something succeeding on a world stage, when you love, see Gaelic people making money and building companies and providing jobs, when you love to build other Gaelic people up, that's because it's in your blood. That's because that's in your blood from thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That's in your blood. That's the Gaelic way. That's how Gaelic people are when they're not knocked down by the Fomorians.